out-of-town businesses doing in this community. They don't care about it. We need to do something about it. So.
As it stands right now, we would just have to work within the policy that's existing in the city. For someplace like Family Dollar, we would call the codes department and they would issue them a violation with a fine. If they repeated the behavior, they would be receiving additional fines. I think that big picture, you know, if we're just talking about our codes department and how we respond, I think we can do better. And I'm happy that the innovation team, Bloomberg's innovation team that works out of the mayor's office, is working hard right now to try to create a more proactive rather than a reactive codes department like what we have right now. This citing someone, issuing them a ticket, waiting for them to pay a fine. Sometimes they don't even pay the fine and then they do it again and you give them another ticket. You know, we're not really getting anywhere with that. So our council has had a lot of conversations about trying to have a more effective, a more aggressive codes department and how to get away from this reactive pathway that we're on.
The first step would be to reach out to our enforcement downtown as far as the commissioners of that department that would cover the trash, as she said, the code enforcement. But then also I think it's a responsibility on the community as well. If we welcome these businesses within our communities, I feel as if we have an obligation to hold them accountable for their space and hold them accountable for how they're presented within our neighborhoods. But we also have to hold ourselves accountable. And if we want someone to make sure that their space is clean in our neighborhoods, then we need to do the same with our own private properties. And that wouldn't be anything that a common councilor would enforce. That's just a resident here in the city of Syracuse. And if you value your neighborhood, then you should take part in making sure that it's clean. But the only thing, as far as district councilors, you would have to go to code enforcement at least to make sure that the complaint is known. And then just encourage other constituents, if they have complaints, to make sure that they follow.
All right, so I'm hearing specific buzzwords: community empowerment, economic development, self-determination. What specific legislation, and we'll start with you, what specific legislation would you enact, repeal, or revise if you hold the position to empower the community to create jobs, to empower the community to be self-determinant?
One of the things that I'm looking forward to working with the councilors is just holding code enforcement more responsible, but also the landlords more responsible. We have a lot of issues within our city, especially with lead, and making sure that we can inspect the homes to make sure that they're safe and secure. I don't think it passed this last time when it was up with the legislation. That's one of the things that I would want to focus on, because I know that a lot of our homes, especially on the south side, are not up to par. And the only way that we can make sure that they become better is through code enforcement, and that's one of the things, one of the legislations that I want to work on.
So I'd like to pass something that I worked on when I was in New York City. In New York City, it was called Hire NYC. And what it was whenever a company got a lot of money from the city, either through a pilot or through a large contract, they were required to go through a program, which was a database of local residents that wanted jobs and what their skills were. So if you were a big construction company and the city was giving you a lot of money and you need to hire a plumber, if there was a local plumber that lived in a community with high unemployment, you had to at least interview them, give them a fair shot. So, you know, there's tons of companies that are getting, you know, construction pilots, anything like that in the city, and there's residents here who are qualified for jobs, so let's give them a shot. So this program would not require people to hire anyone, but it would make them, give them a fair shot at employment. So that's the first thing I would do.
I would continue to push for the residency requirement for the Syracuse City School District. We're still working on that. I think that where we are right now with that was awful. You know, that we had a priority hiring in place, and we're only able to achieve over 50% in the 3 lowest paying areas in the Syracuse City School District. I find that very unacceptable. So as the school board is working on that, I'm going to continue to push to get that through. We have to run into some legal and contract issues that are being worked through right now, but that's definitely going to be a top priority for me in a piece of legislation. That was a difficult question, though. That was a kind of a loaded question. There's an awful lot that you said there that you wanted, and I don't know if that was the best answer, but that's one thing that I want to do for local hiring. But as far as other legislation, I think that we need to do something about the landlords who own multiple properties and hide from code enforcement by paying their taxes on properties and jump around. That's a piece that I'd like to work on. Sorry.
I will follow up on the ban the box initiative, the policy with ban the box, because that's very important for individuals that's coming home from incarceration to be able to find employment. I will make sure current employers are following that within the city, because I have personal experiences where they're not living up to that ban the box, and they still have that application process. And also, as she said, mentioned with the residency issue with the teachers, I believe it's very important that also law enforcement. I will focus on policy that put in place for law enforcement to have to reside in the city. I don't believe it's okay for police to live out in Cicero, Camillus, and then come into our cities and pretty much terrorize. They do things that's not appropriate, and they go back home into their neighborhoods. So I would like to see more police that's from our community, that live in our community, to police our community. So that's something that I'll push for.
All right. I have time for one more question, and then we're going to open it up for the audience Q&A. I'm an environmental professor, and I was asked to stay clear of the environmental talk tonight, but since my sister to the left brought it up, I'm forced to bring it up. You mentioned the lead concentrations in our windows, and the lead dust, and the paint, lead-laden paint that our children and adults as well are ingesting and inhaling and breathing in. We know what the problems are. What is the way forward? And we'll start with you, Ms. Allen. You brought it up.
First, I think it needs to be brought out more into the spotlight, and I think it needs to be an education piece. We have a lot of people that live on the south side in particular that live in older homes, and they may not even know that they're affected by this. So I know there is a push now, but I would like to see it a little broader so people will actually know what to expect, what to look for, and then how to fix it. And the solution is working with your code enforcement and making sure that these particular homes are cited, and then the issue has to be taken care of. That's it.
So I was very disappointed, whatever it was, a year or two ago, when this came up in front of the Common Council and the property inspection, didn't pass. I totally understand the perspective, if you're a landlord, that it's possibly you're inspecting a bunch of different houses that aren't relevant to this, but this is in some cases a life and death situation, and I think it's a very serious issue. And to have children grow up in a home where there's lead paint is unacceptable to me. So Rochester has a program that they've implemented, and they've been able to reduce the incidence of lead paint in homes. So this isn't an unprecedented thing. We're not the only city in the country that's dealt with this. So I think we need to look what other cities have done to look at the inventory of the houses that need to be inspected, and we need to implement it.
That the city was denied the funding for the lead program was something that we need to run all the way up the ladder. That's not something that happened on the city council level. That was something that happened above the city council level, and we need to continue to advocate for that funding, to receive the funding to fight the lead in our homes. It's sort of out of our hands. We don't have the money to beat it, and we don't have the money to hire the type of professionals that we need in our code enforcement department to do that kind of work. So we have financial issues behind the lead problem, and just like it's another financial problem, and we're going to have to address that when we talk about fiscal responsibility in the next 6 months when I'm in office.
When I first purchased my first home last year, I had a lead issue, and I had to take care of that with the code enforcement. They came in and inspected the house and found lead. And at that point, I asked the inspector to, educate me on this. And the importance, it's very important because lead definitely can cause death, And, I'm a father of 4 children, and God forbid if anything such like that will happen to one of my children. So that is something that the city, we definitely have to handle. We have to put that in our next city budget. We have to find a finance to address this issue because it's very important for me and especially the community. And we have to approach it from a strategic manner. This is something that can't be dealt with lightly, and we can't continue to allow these homeowners to overlook this issue. They're collecting rent from tenants, and they're not dealing with the issue. And we're gonna have to come strong down on them, with fines, penalties, whatsoever, to get this issue taken care of because it's very, very important.
All right, that concludes this portion, but we definitely want to get a lively, engaged Q&A. So if you will step up to the microphone, you'll have approximately 1 minute to ask your question, and then we'll give each candidate 1 minute to respond. Yes, ma'am. Please, and also please introduce yourself.
My name is Sharon Owens. I am the director at the Southwest Community Center. I think it was Mr. Green mentioned that non-governmental assets like the Southwest Community Center can partner with government to meet the needs of constituents. The Southwest Community Center, the Northeast Community Center, and the Westcott Community Center are all city-owned buildings run by not-for-profit agencies, dependent on HUD funds. We have no idea where that's going. To each of you, will you do everything within your power? Approving a city budget is one of the jobs you'll have. Will you do everything in your power to ensure that those agencies, just at the level we're getting now from HUD, are in the city budget?
Start with Ms. Ford.
Short answer is yes. Yes. I don't know if I need a whole minute to answer that question, but there is no question that the resources and the services provided by those organizations, by those community centers, better the lives of our children and put them, and our adults, and put them on track for success, almost like nothing else that we have going in this community. And to do anything to take the funding away from the Southwest Community Center or some of our other community centers would be a tragedy in our community, as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Wright.
Oh, to answer that, yes. That money needs to get into the hands of the right people.
Just trying to get everybody on record.
Now you got it.
So your question is, would the city replace the money that HUD used to provide?
You sat in that seat, would you do everything to put that money in the budget?
I would do everything I could, yeah. And I apologize, I don't know off the top of my head, how much does HUD provide this year?
Between all 3 of us, it's $500,000.
Okay, so it's a lot, but yeah.
That's
Not between 3.
It's, yes, I think that there's no, I can't think off the top of my head of a better use of city dollars than that, because you're taking a lot of younger people in particular that need those community resources to grow into good adults. So there's no better way to invest in the city and then to invest specifically in younger people.
Absolutely. I'm a product of Southwest Community Center. My kids go there frequently. So naturally, I'll do what I have to do to make sure that the community centers in all the areas have exactly what they need to make sure that our youth have what they need to become productive citizens here in the city of Syracuse.
My name is Yusuf Abdul-Qadir. I'm the director of the ACLU here, but I'm not here representing ACLU. I'm here because I'm a resident of the Southwest community. And I've been monitoring a lot of comments that folks have made, candidates and those who are seeking public office, and I'm concerned about a few issues. One of the biggest problems I think we have in this community that I've observed from my work and just personally is a number of times in which people call police officers on issues that are not really that serious, but that target young black and brown folks and put them on a path towards criminalization. I'm terribly concerned at the fact that we are criminalizing our youth in ways that are irreparable. And I want to know, to the extent that the council has a stake in it by providing oversight of the police department, what is your philosophy? Not about, because people say community policing, I don't know what that means. What is your philosophy about the relationships that need to happen between police officers and community beyond hiring ordinances of diversity and beyond residency requirements?
We definitely need to start to build a stronger relationship between our police and our community. I think one of the ways that we can do that is hiring a new police class, but focusing on younger people and minorities that would actually want to become police officers. Those that are already within the communities, they know most of the people that would be in their areas that they would have to frequent. So building that relationship won't be as hard. Then also making sure that our police have the proper trainings to be able to deal with people that are different from them, and understand that we all come from different backgrounds and different cultures. But if you're going to be in that position, you have to respect each background and each culture.
So that's a super hard question, right? Because as a counselor, my ability to oversee the police department would be very limited. But with that said, you know, and obviously one of the things you talked about was diversity, and I think that is true, that, you know, when you get community and when you get police officers coming from other communities, they're going to be more likely to criminalize behavior because they maybe don't even understand the neighborhood that well. And, you know, something they see as a criminal act really isn't. It's, you know, friends messing around or not a very serious thing. But I think your observation is exactly correct, that people that are generally good kids that are going to grow up to be good adults sometimes get their life sidetracked because of petty criminal things that put them into the system. So, you know, I wish I had a great answer for you, but what I could do as a district counselor, other than just say, you know, trying to advance that dialogue and trying to help people understand that, you know, you need a better relationship with the police department, and that vice versa, the police need a better relationship with the community.
Thank you. The easy answer to that is we hire within our community for our police department. You know, some of the struggles in doing that have been the civil service exam and things like that, that I think we can overcome. I think that we just need to make some changes in that area, and I think that we can do that. And I would be all for doing that. My personal philosophy, though, you know, that's another thing. You know, I'm so tired of every time there's a fight at Corcoran High School, it's a melee, you know? You know, every time there's a couple, two teenage boys having a fight over a girl, you know, according to the rest of the world, it's 50 kids, you know, in a complete melee. It's not, you know, and I think that message that's going on out there as far as like, of what's really going on is wrong. And I think we need to address that as a community and as a group. And as a common counselor, I would always use my voice to try to make sure that the right message is being sent about what's really happening.
As a counselor, I will work closely with the Citizen Review Board, and also with the mayor who's over the chief of police. You know, so with that being said, it's very important that I, as a counselor, be that bridge between the community and the police force. Have a strong foot within the community, and I know a lot of personal police officers. So I believe if we intertwine and do interacting events, which can be a bridge to build those relationships between the community and the police officers. Because most encounters that the community have with police officers is through traffic stops or through, you know, situations that happen in the community where they're being called out. And their job is tough. You know, the police, they don't have an easy job, and their goal is to return back home to their family, but they have to understand that, you know, coming into the community, they got to approach it with a better understanding than they have. So, you know, I will definitely work close with the Citizens Review Board when it comes to that issue.
Hi, my name is Javon Collins. I'm parent of public schools, but also a homeowner, and this is, like you said, community member I'm coming to as. I had other issues that I wanted to bring up, but this one, as I read in Sunday's paper, this one, the last one, scared the hell out of me. I wanted to know what, as the Common Council, can do, and I can do as a citizen of Syracuse, to help stop the liquid nuclear waste trucking through central New York, as watchdogs say. It's going through, it's approved, it's, the Department of Energy has quietly started allowing shipments of highly radioactive nuclear waste to travel through upstate New York. And I want to know also, is it police escorted? Is it properly contained? Because as I'm looking through my stuff, I'm crazy here. 2 ounces can destroy a city. So if it's possible if you guys can maybe look into that, or what, I don't know, what are your views and comments on that?
Start with Mr. Green.
I'm not going to pretend. I won't pretend to be an expert in this specific type of activity, but I know I've been in the Common Council before where people have brought up issues of hazardous waste going through the city, and that I do believe there's an obligation to notify the police departments. The police department's aware of where it's going, so they can at least monitor to make sure that it's going through safely. But one thing I will say is I was at this exact building about a month ago when it was a meeting about 81, and the guy for Save 81 specifically said one of the reasons you should keep 81 is because people were rerouting. People will reroute and drive hazardous waste through our beautiful communities like Skaneateles, and won't that be terrible? And the obvious answer was instead of right through the most populous part of the region. So I think this is a good, another reason why we should be making sure we have a street grid, because hazardous waste going right down the middle of our most populated region of the city is not a good way to go.
I've actually only heard that once, and that was in a Common Council session. And if my memory recalls, they didn't have an exact answer that was released out to the public as far as how to handle a situation like that. But the only thing I can say, just as a resident here in the city of Syracuse, I would want to know more information and to know who exactly to contact and what's the protocol for something like that. So I won't sit here today and tell you that I know the ins and outs of that answer, because I don't. But I would definitely want to be more informed, and as a counselor, district counselor, when I have that information, I would definitely pass that on to my constituents so they're more informed and they know how to handle the situation.
Ms. Boyd.
Thank you. Yeah, that was brought up in council, and we were told at that time, we asked a lot of questions about that waste will not be going through the city of Syracuse. It will be going around the city of Syracuse. That's kind of close. The fire department is notified when these shipments come through, and they do take serious precautions at the times when something like that is going to come through. But just to be very clear, there will be no nuclear waste going through the city of Syracuse.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were
Well, she pretty much answered that question for you. Is that there will not be no waste coming through the city of Syracuse.
Thank you, Bill. Good question. I was wondering when people were going to talk about that.